मीठा सबको एक हाथ है, विष है लागा धाय। नीम न कोई पीवसी, सबे रोग मिट जाए कबीरा, सबे रोग मिट जाए। मीठा सबको एक हाथ है, विष है लागा धाय। नीम न कोई पीवसी, सबे रोग मिट जाए कबीरा, सबे रोग मिट जाए। Now, Sant Kabir ji is talking about a very beautiful and a concept we have been quite familiar in our Vedantic teachings. The title given to this Doha, the original text doesn't come with a title, so we have given it a title to give us an understanding. The title is False and True Happiness. Now, the Doha says everyone likes eating sweets, but it is poison that kills. None likes to drink the bitter neem, which is Sabe Roga Mitajaye. It gets rid of all the diseases. Sabaroga. So he is drawing an analogy to eating sweets vis-a-vis not wanting to drink that neem drink, which is so bitter, but then it has its unique benefits of destroying all the diseases. Now, as we understand, in fact, there is a reference in the 18th chapter of the Gita. The 18th chapter of the Gita, Lord Krishna brings out this concept of true happiness and false happiness. Now, any true happiness or sattvic happiness, as we call it, sattvic happiness is poisonous to begin with. It is unpalatable to begin with. So it is poison to begin, but it ends as nectar. It is nectarine in the end. That is true happiness. But on the contrary, any false happiness is nectarine to begin with, but it ends as poison. So based on this thumb rule of life, sattvic happiness, as I've said, is poison to begin with and is nectarine in the end. And false happiness is, what is false happiness? It begins with nectar, ends as poison. True happiness begins as poison, ends as nectar. So when we understand this and we have this acute perception to life, anything that gives me an instant pleasure, anything that gives me an immediate gratification, I need to be watchful, I need to be beware. Because when we don't understand how this functions, then we get into trouble. So in effect, what we are choosing is the tendency of the mind is to go with something which is palatable, which is acceptable. That's the tendency of the mind. So since the mind courts pleasure and detests something which gives it displeasure, the tendency of the mind is it courts pleasure and detests something which gives it displeasure. So when it courts something which is pleasurable, the moment something gives you happiness, you court it. The moment something gives you unhappiness, you reject it, you detest it. Now, you may say, if we are operating on the mind, then what is it that we end up doing? Now, it's very interesting when you look at nature, the law of nature. How is nature operating? How is nature designed? And this knowledge should be taught to every individual as early as they can be comprehend. They should be taught this. Sadly, it's not taught formally, and each one is left to experience it and learn through experience. Now, the important aspect of how nature is designed is all things that are beneficial to you, anything that is beneficial to you, are detestable in the beginning. Anything that is beneficial to you in any aspect of life, anything that is beneficial for your own betterment is detestable in the beginning. And all that is detrimental to you are palatable in the beginning. This is how the law of nature is. I don't know whether there can be any exceptions to this rule, but how the law of nature is that all beneficial things are detrimental to you in the beginning, and all things that are detrimental to you are palatable in the beginning. How good it would have been if things in life were a little different, which is if all beneficial things to you are palatable and all detrimental things are unpalatable. How beautiful life would have been. Life would have been so easy, so that you don't have to worry at all, because every time you go out into the world, every time you have to make a choice, you're only making the right choices, because all good things are palatable, all bad things unpalatable. But that's not how life is. I hope you all have got it, what I'm saying. And in this, there is this, if all beneficial things to you are palatable in the beginning, and all detrimental things to you are unpalatable in the beginning, I doubt we need this wisdom. I doubt do we need this scriptural truths. I doubt we need any guru to tell us what's right, what's wrong, isn't it? You don't need it, because automatically you're making the right choices. Because go back to the principle I said, anything that is palatable, you take; anything unpalatable, you reject. But what are we doing? All good things to you are unpalatable. So in the process, you're rejecting all the good things, isn't it? All unpalatable things are beneficial to you. I'm saying in the beginning, unpalatable things are detrimental to you. But then you reject it because unpalatable. And if this capacity of not falling for that instant pleasure, it's not falling for that momentary satisfaction, it's not falling for that instant gratification, if you don't fall a prey to that, if you're able to hold back yourself, if you're able to have that foresight, we would make a very wise choice. All choices would be perfect. And in fact, all this predicament or this challenge doesn't apply to animal kingdom. They don't have to worry. All what they do is perfect from day one for their survival, because they survive and operate on pure instincts. But a human is expected to operate on his intellect, on the buddhi, on his wisdom. And this is how you use your wisdom to make the right choices. And everything that we do, we are doing for happiness. Everything that we do, that's the terminus of life. And if we do everything for happiness, we are clouded by how the law of nature demands us to look at it. We are not able to look at life the way it is because we don't have that clarity of perception. Now, just to give an example, and then I'll want you all to give your views on or examples how where you can see this principle applies. See, anything that is a simple mundane example, it's very easy to be indisciplined. It's very difficult to lead a disciplined life. One takes to indiscipline easily because it's very pleasurable. It's quite fine. You take naturally to it. But to live a life of discipline, it takes a lot out of you to inculcate that discipline, isn't it? And to lead a disciplined life is very unpalatable to begin with. To keep things organized, to have a certain discipline in your way of life or conduct, it doesn't come naturally. But in discipline, you don't need any knowledge, you don't need any training, you don't need any certification course. It comes naturally to us. In fact, I'll take another example, where it works. To get attached to something is very pleasurable, isn't it? But if I were to tell you, you must learn to be detached, it's very painful. Am I right? Are you all following? If I say a person who gets attached to something, he finds great joy. He easily slips into attachment. As you know, you develop attachment to things that you like. You detest something which you dislike. But when you are, why? And the Shastras are telling us to live a life of detachment. Not going to be easy. Never easy to be detached to your family, detached to your wealth. To cultivate that attitude of detachment is pain. To get up early hours is a pain in the neck. So the number of students who come for this morning class is less. To come at 11 o'clock is okay. But 4:30 to get up and be ready at 5:15 for the class is poison to begin with. But to get up late in the morning is very pleasurable. So 3 examples we have taken, Harish. I don't know, 3 or more. What are the examples we have taken?
We've taken an example of being attached to people or things. You've been saying the second example is getting up early hours in the morning. This is the third example you gave. And to lead a very disciplined life in all aspects. And the example, I know you wanted to ask us what examples we think. I think it's also doing exercise rigorously and diligently, regardless of the weather or our stamina. We have to do it as part of our body regiment. So it is very painful to do exercise on an ongoing basis, but it's something we have to do for the well-being of our body and our mind. So that's one example I can think of.
Yeah. Exercise is the most detestable thing. Your body doesn't like to exercise, isn't it? But the feeling you get after you have exercised, I tell you, your whole day is so uh, refreshing. It's so, you feel so light, you feel so welcoming, you know. And if you reach your home and if the lift is under repair, you will have a spring on your feet even at the end of the day. You don't mind taking a walk up the flight of stairs, 2, 3 floors. You'll jump with excitement. But if you have not started your day with exercise, even the first thing in the day, you will feel very lethargic to even get to your office the first thing in the morning if you have to climb a flight of stairs. You become senile, you become the body becomes dead, inactive. But it's very exercising is not welcoming. The body feels repulsive. But one who has tasted it, it is very exercising is very welcoming. So yeah, I will hear from one or two others, then I'll get to the where is the whole crux. Anything else? Any other thought, Harish?
Not at the moment, Guruji.
All right. Okay. What is pleasurable in the beginning becomes poison at the end. Any examples? Like day in and day out, we are subjected through these experiences. Yes, Raviji.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Very well, sir. So it's very ugly for us, sir, here.
I
We all
know.
woke up with cursing everybody. We woke up and you're saying good evening to us.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
No,
I forgot. I
No,
forgot.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's evening for you all there. Yes, sir.
I am in Boston. I just got back from outside and rushed to put on my phone.
Okay.
And why I raised my hand to tell you that I had missed my evening cup of tea. So I had dinner. Then somebody offered me tea. That's why I switched off the camera for some time.
Right. Okay.
To drink my tea, and hopefully it's not too great a sin.
No, not at all.
So the point you made, I think one can think of. Today I went to a mall and had a lemonade which was full of sugar. I enjoyed it, but obviously it's not good for my health in the long run. So there are hundreds of examples like that. And I came home and a neighboring Telugu family brought us some bhajis. They're very tasty. I had them too. Right. I suppose another dietary sin committed. Once in a while, hopefully they are okay. But yes, it gives you enormous immediate pleasure. But in the long run, it's a good idea to be careful. So I mean, my own recent experience came to my mind when you talked of examples, and why I switched off the microphone, the video camera, because I didn't think it was polite to be sipping tea when you were talking. My apologies for that.
Oh, appreciate that. You know, so you see the philosophy in lemonade and bhaji.
Yes, they're very tasty, but obviously not to be done on a very regular basis.
Absolutely. So you can relate it in any other aspect of life where we end up making wrong choices because we fall for that immediate pleasure.
I suppose so. I think, fortunately for most of us, it happens to be in small things. But from time to time, you could end up making big mistakes also because of momentary pleasure, which could have lifelong consequences.
Absolutely. See, how can we lend this perception to those moments where we are not able to see the complex way how the nature is designed?
To be always aware of oneself, one's thoughts and one's actions.
No, I'm being very specific to the context here, where we say all beneficial things to you in life have a detestable beginning, and all things which are detrimental to you have, sorry, did I say it correct? All beneficial things to you have a, how is the law of nature design? All beneficial things to you have a
Bitter beginning.
Bitter beginning. And what is the opposite of that?
Sweet. All detrimental things will have sweet beginnings.
All detrimental things to have a sweet beginning. Can we relate it to other experiences of life? Like Harish took an example of exercising. We took an example of leading a disciplined or an indisciplined life. And we talked about getting up at Brahma Muhurtam is such a detestable thing in the beginning, but then once you got a hang of it, one of the most precious moments of your life. Alas, nobody ever attempts to encash that auspicious hour. It's like that. Can we draw from different walks of life, different experiences? And we spoke about to be detached is very unpleasant in the beginning, but to be attached, naturally we develop attachment to, because your mind falls a prey to something which caters to you, because your mind operates on something which is pleasant and unpleasantness. Like that, can we think afresh?
All sensual pleasures beyond a point, I think, come into this category of being sweeter in the beginning and ending up bitter.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not saying that it's totally bad, because man does live by the senses for a substantial part of his life. He's meant to. But in the Purushartha, the Dharmartha, Kama, Mokshas, I guess Kama and Artha have to be controlled by Dharma.
Yep.
And once that is done, then it will remain within limits. Otherwise, you're asking for trouble.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Very well said, sir. Very well said. But if we take to the examples, we are greatly falling on to from the physical perspective. We are seeing sensual pleasures and indulgences, etc. The same law applies if we look at it even from the materialistic perspective. All right. Thank you, Raviji. Now, even if you have to experiment it at the material level, in fact, as UK.
Namaste, Guruji.
Yes, ma. Namaskar. So, what it is that you commented?
Like be it mothers or many others in the thing, Guruji. Initially, they shower a lot of love, affection, and all that. They seem to be taking care of the whole household, and they become possessive of that role they are playing. So initially they enjoy it a lot, and the others also definitely enjoy it a lot. But as the time progresses, the rest of the people, they just depend on them for. They feel they take it for granted and carry on, and they are dependent on these people who keep on doing things for them. But due to health or some other reason, it becomes a bane after some time. That is a part of this attachment process also.
Part of attachment, yes. So
you are giving a black market value for your own services. You think others are dependent on you, so your life is very, it's worth it and things like that. But at a stage, you will realize that it's all a myth.
Yeah, I agree with you. So to be possessive is very pleasurable. Oh, sorry, am I right?
It gives you a sense of importance or your worth about your own life. You think others are dependent on you. That kind of feeling.
To be possessive is very pleasurable, but to live a life of dispossessiveness,
that's
the difficult part.
Yes.
To cultivate that quality of dispossessiveness. Possessiveness or dispossessiveness has nothing to do with your quantity or quality of possession, as we should understand it.
Yes.
It's nothing to do with your possession. It's an attitude that you carry to your possession.
Yeah, exactly.
So as you rightly said, if you're attached, you're very possessive. And if you're detached, you're very dispossessive. You possess it, you may enjoy it, but yet you are not bound by it.
Yeah.
Not bound by it. All right. Perfect. Very nice. I wanted to bring this concept of false and true happiness with reference to the material level. Setuji brings one element here. Yes, Setuji, are you in a position to speak?
Hariom Guruji.
Hariom, sir.
I was talking about this indiscriminate buying of assets, objects. All this initially we get tempted and we think in the long run that increases our net worth. But beyond, it is all beyond needs. When we go for fulfilling our wants, they become a pain in the neck. Same way, all celebrities initially they want a lot of publicity and they want press to media to support them. Later, they think their privacy is totally encroached. They cannot go. Every movement of them is in the media, and even sometimes false information is spread. So, like that in every walk of life, when we crave, when we go for fulfilling our cravings and wants, they are big pain.
Yes, absolutely, sir. In fact, going along with your thought of at the material level, people indiscriminately keep acquiring, So it is very pleasurable to keep acquiring. It's very difficult it's very unpleasant to give. If somebody were to if you have to part with something for others' well-being at the material level,
Yeah.
giving is a very painful. When is it painful, sir?
I mean, parting.
Parting with
Yeah, yeah.
material objects is very painful. When is it painful?
When we are parting. Yeah.
At the point, in the beginning, it's painful. But the joy you derive in giving is unparalleled, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Abstaining and there is a renunciation gives a lot of joy.
But it begins with pain, no?
Yeah, yeah. It begins with...
If you have to renounce your material wealth,
yeah.
it is very painful in the beginning.
Correct.
No, as a true giver, you will understand that. So you have been you're a great giver, and I know that. So a giver finds it very, very difficult to part with it because he's attached to it. But the moment you enjoy, you go beyond that initial hesitancy to part with things. Life is full of joy. So at the material level also, you see the same principle working. So to acquire wealth and amass wealth is pleasurable, but it's a pain later on, as you say. But to part with wealth is very painful in the beginning. Even the thought of giving is very unacceptable. But how life enriches you if you are a giver is something which you have to experience it and live it for yourself, isn't it?
Correct.
So even at the material level, the law holds good.
But one has to be contentment, and one should feel fullness. Then automatically giving will happen. But
Yes.
Otherwise, acquisitions, continuous acquisitions makes you feel more and more. But I have many of the people who have a lot of assets, their problem is they always say their entire energy and time goes in worrying about them and protecting them and retaining them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pain, no?
Yeah.
Initially, it's a pleasure, but later on, it's a pain.
And they are so much attached, they don't want to also part anything to anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, yesterday, Maniji, who just had a call with me, and he was, I'm just trying to protect myself from a bug that is crawling to me, you know. Okay, it's found, it's going somewhere else. It's okay. So I'm safe. Thank you. I told to the bug, sir, not to you, Setuji. So yes, it is any life of indulgence is very pleasurable. Any indulgent life is pleasurable, but if you have to practice restraint or live a life of abstinence, it's very, very demanding. It's not palatable. Again, I'm just trying to fit everything into the context of false happiness and true happiness. Also, you can relate it in the context of to fulfill a desire is very pleasurable. Instant pleasure. But if a desire comes into your mind and if you have to ride over it, you need to draw your wisdom and intellect to control the desire, and to say no to it is very, very challenging, unpalatable. But then the kind of conviction and strength and the mature feeling that you experience is unparalleled. To fall a prey to the desire or temptation is very easy. But to have a desire and not to fall a prey to it is, to cultivate that quality is very difficult. But you can see something which is challenging in the beginning, later on becomes a life where you can enjoy everything in life, but you have perfect control over yourself. Vis-a-vis, you fall for that temptation. To lead a corrupt life is very pleasurable. It brings in a lot of returns and rewards. But to live a life of integrity, to say no to that initial pleasures that you get by falling a prey to the opportunity to make quick money, again, even at that level, you can see it. So you can, I'm only trying to see, as Kabirji only talks about eating sweets and poison. That is, we didn't, in fact, sadly, we didn't talk of that. Oh, I think maybe Raviji spoke already, no? But he didn't talk of sweets. We spoke about lemonade and bhaji. But Kabirji is saying anything sweet is poison. Anything bitter is nectarine. Kashish, do you see what Kabirji is saying?
Very on Guruji. Yeah, I think I do. Well, I don't think I do. I agree.
You agree, no?
Yeah.
You have any fresh perspective to it? Any example?
I don't have an example for the sweets to poison, but I have an example for the second half, which is that recently my brother and I have been learning salsa. And like with any new skill or any creation process, it can be really scary and also like humbling to set aside your ego and be like, I don't know how to do this thing. I'm voluntarily willing to look dumb in front of all these people who may judge me to be in this space and learn a skill. And we were in a class and I was in the front row and the teacher was like asking people to demonstrate. And it felt like a little bit like not necessarily bitter, but it felt like, this is not instantly pleasurable to learn a new skill. But then over time, when we learned a couple moves and we got dancing, it became like, oh, okay, so the hard work pays off there. It was worth sticking it out and getting rid of your ego in the short term to be able to dance and connect with other people in the long term.
So you very soon going to teach salsa to us, all of us, huh?
If you would like, Guruji, sure.
Yeah, why not? We shall.
Okay.
Right. Okay, great. So what's the message we have to take from this? What's the message? Gayatri Ma.
Anything which we have to interact or anything which
Could you
comes
speak a
into
little louder, Ma?
Yeah, anything we interact or get into our life, immediately we should judge whether it is going to give us the benefit in the longer run and then take a call. And when it comes to the emotions, always say that be a witness, to be frank, like to stand apart and watch it. for that, a sharp intellect to discriminate.
Yeah, so the key takeaway is that, as you rightly say, the intellect has to be so sharp, and you should be able to determine what is right, what is wrong for you, what is good, what is bad for you. So it's possible that a true friend may be putting on a garb as a foe, and a foe can be putting on a garb as a friend. So what we must understand, the key takeaway is the world out there is not what you look at it as it seems to be. Something which is good for you appears to be bad. What is bad for you appears to be good. And that acute perception, so that you don't end up making the wrong choice in life. On what basis you choose a partner? Or the partner, if all the time the person is trying to cater to me, satisfy me in every possible way, would you choose that person as your partner? That's the reason people get into a relationship, isn't it? And later on, the other person is not able to cater to me or satisfy me, and then I go my way, you go your way. So again, it's instant you fall a prey to the superficial emotions. Like a parent either goes about constantly pampering the children or the kids, or cultivates the quality of that which is in the best interest of the child. And at times the parent may have to tell no to the child, even if it means displeasing the child. If the child constantly wants to eat an ice cream, example, if the parent keeps conceding and keep giving into the child's desire for having that, how can you say no to the child? How can you hurt the child? By the end of the day, you will destroy the child. But if I were to say no, so I don't fall for that superficial emotion. So the most important takeaway is, when you do realize that I'm having made the right choice, you must have the capacity to endure that initial pain or discomfort. That is the crux to the application of this quality. One is to have the perception. So I'm making two critical points here. One is to have the perception that all that appears good is not in my interest. It's not good. All that appears bad is not bad, is actually beneficial. Is to eat sattvic food is almost plain and bland, but it's most beneficial, healthy to you. So I'm not going into the examples again. So the clear perception you must have. Second is, having made the right choice, you must have the capacity to sail through that phase of initial discomfort, or your ability to endure that pain is put to test. Can you sail through that phase of discomfort? The moment you get over that phase of discomfort, even you want to go for an exercise, the first few minutes of exercise is the most painful thing. And thereafter, believe me, even the person who detests exercise will start enjoying it. It's just the initial phase. And we give up the best things in life because of the initial detestment. You're rejecting the best things is because you detest initially. But if you can cultivate the quality to go through that initial phase of detestment, I do practice a little bit of intermittent fasting. Like, for example, yesterday my last meal was my lunch, and I haven't had anything from yesterday lunch till later this morning. I'll be having my breakfast. Now, come the time for your supper, your body naturally is wanting food, your thoughts are going towards food, and the instinct is to grab food and eat. But if you can control that few initial moments of urge to eat, if you can distract yourself or take your thoughts off it, I tell you, it is such a beautiful thing to fast. And I would want Vasanta Seturamanma to give us a little insight into this, because she is a pro. She's a professional in fasting. And in fact, I would say she is my guru of fasting. Vasantama? I know she didn't expect this coming. Vasantama, are you there? All right. So, but those of you who have experienced this, in fact, even those who have a weakness for that, food is initial thing, you know. You eat as if there is no tomorrow for you, and you eat as if you've never eaten before. It's just you fall for that instant thing. So if you are able to control that initial instinct, I think you will conquer that initial pain. The same holds good getting up in the morning, Harish. 4:30 in the morning, when you get up, it is the most painful thing, I know. But just go through that initial discomfort. Just tell yourself, no, let me experience that little pain. And then you will see the nectar that is there behind that. Have faith, Harish. There is a lot of nectar there. But don't ask me, why is it that nectar has to be in the... It's like a sugar tablet coated with quinine. And a tablet is quinine, which is coated with sugar. The sad part, the moment you put a tablet which is coated with quinine, the first thing you taste that bitterness, you spit it away. But other tablet which is full of nectar, sugar inside, which is, or the other way, you know, it is outside is coated with sugar, but inside all is quinine. You hold on to it, but then you can't get rid of it. Wrong choice. I think it's Robert Frost, if I'm not wrong, he says, "The road not taken." He wrote that poem, "A Road Not Taken." And just to, if I'm able to draw what he brings out, he talks of two paths, and you're at that juncture where you have to choose one from the other. One is an asphalted highway. As far as your eyes can see, it's a beautiful long stretch of a freeway. You either take that road, or there's a rugged, in fact, there's no path at all, you know. It's into the bushes, and there's sort of a trail there. So am I to take the path which goes into the trail, or am I to take the freeway? And he says the road not taken, everybody is taking that beautiful freeway. But not many realize that after a few kilometers later, that 3-lane highway becomes a 2-lane, 1-lane, and there's no lane. There's no road proper. They don't know that. And here on the other side, which is just a walkway, the bushes clear up, and it's a clear path, and then there's a rugged road, then there's a single lane, and then there's a beautiful highway right up to your destination. So the path, he says, the road not taken. Many people just because of the initial unpleasantness. Not many take that road. So every time you're making a choice, make sure that you bank your choice on this perception that all that appears good is not necessarily good. And I'm reminded of the play King Lear. King Lear on his 80th birthday. Why are you smiling, Kashish? Why are you laughing? No, you are. Your camera is very clear.
I'm smiling, Guruji, because I really enjoy when you quote Shakespeare and different poems.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. You're the first person who has ever told me that in 30 years of my life. So I shall remember that forever. Nobody's ever said that to me, They've been very unkind. You're the only kindest soul in my life who said that to me,
That can't be true, Guruji. I'm sure plenty of people
I
also
totally
enjoy.
expect you think I'm going to lie? How can I lie? I'm not lying.
Okay.
So thank you. You made my day.
You're most
King
welcome.
Lear. So I don't know whether you've heard of this story. King Lear, on his 80th birthday, he wanted to divide his kingdom into three halves. He had three daughters, Goneril, Regan, and Cordelia, and he wanted his kingdom into three equal parts. And on his 80th birthday, he calls his three daughters, and the first two daughters were very, very vicious daughters. They were not genuinely interested in their father's well-being. They were vicious. But on that day, when they were called, they were so they put on an act of as if the great love for the father, and they were going into raptures, praising the father. The father did not know the true nature. But when Cordelia, she knew what her two sisters were, and she knew their evil nature. She was boiling within that how, these two sisters of mine, and how are they buttering the father and trying to, please him and things like that. But when her chance came to say a few words, and in fact, the third daughter, the youngest of them, was very dear to the father. There was a true affection between them. And when her chance came to say a few words, because she said, "Dear, this is your share of the kingdom. What have you got to say to your father on this occasion?" She was so furiated till then because of seeing all what the other sisters had done. She said, "I have nothing to say." "What? You have nothing to say to your father on this day?" She said, "Nothing." Then the father was so taken aback, he said that nothing comes out of nothing. And the story goes, he banishes his third daughter from the kingdom, and the kingdom was divided to the first two daughters, Goneril and Regan. And you must see the rest of the story. The King of England was begging on the streets of England. Now, here you fall a prey to. What do you fall a prey to here? Harish, what do you fall a prey to here? What did King Lear fall a prey to?
He fell a prey to the sweet-talking children who falsely praised him, who had ulterior motives. So he was caught in the sweet-talking, and he didn't. He wanted to hear what he wanted to hear by the sweet-talking two daughters, and he couldn't take the bitter truth from the third daughter. So this is example that the sweet-talking daughters eventually threw him out.
Now, yes, you're right. You're speaking the obvious in the story, but how do you relate it to the context of false and true happiness? at this concept playing at the emotional level?
Well, in emotional level, I mean, he thought, I mean, like you said, Guruji, all that appears good is not good. They were wolves in sheep's, I mean, they were wolves in sheep's clothing, basically. So he did not know them well enough, and he thought they were on his side. So they were actually wolves in sheep's clothing, these daughters. That's how I can see it emotionally, that he bought into it.
Yeah. He didn't have the capacity to assess their true nature. They were wolves in sheep's clothing, as you rightly say. So emotionally, he fell for the flattery, and
Yes.
he couldn't see the hidden motive. He couldn't see the purity of love of his third daughter. So you fall for that superficial emotion. A true friend is one who may not flatter you, who may not feed your ego. He may have to bring out the truth to tell you what is in your best interest.
Yes.
So do we recognize who is a true friend, who's a true foe? So, but the story of King Lear only highlights how a whiff of emotion and how he was clouded by the flattery and the superficial emotion of praise. And later, in fact, at the end of the story, if you watch it, it's the third daughter who came and tried to rescue, but then it was at the end of it, there was a heap of dead bodies, a lot of destruction. So one wrong act can be detrimental. So at the point of making a choice, you must be mindful of this philosophy, of this, how, I'm looking for the right word, how the plan of nature is, how nature is designed at the point of choice, because once you made a choice, then you have no choice but to face the consequences.
Yes.
I think it's a very, very profound concept, and this has to be taught in the early stages of one's life. Then all the choices you make, on what basis you make this choice. Whatever choice you make, it's not what choices you make, on what basis you made the choice. This will help. Okay, Harish?
Yes, Guruji.
Right. Reddy Garu, I hope you have the network to speak, sir.
Yes, Guruji. Your phone. Pranam.
Namaskar, sir. Where are you, sir?
I'm in a village where there are a lot of people able to hear some morning bhajans and everything near to the temple.
Right.
It's located near to the Tirupati.
Sorry?
I'm just located near to the Tirupati in a place called Chittoor.
Ah, okay. Right. Okay.
It's in a village. It's in a village. I just came for a day.
Right. I understand.
This philosophy is really making more sense to the life, Guruji. In fact, yesterday I was just thinking of a girl who was just 10+1. She's putting in an effort of going to the class in the morning at 6:30 and back to home at 8 o'clock. Amazing to understand her energy levels, her strength. But maybe two sides of the coin where we need to really look at that. Putting more than 12 hours of, definitely that's really painful. Maybe the age will permit to, but definitely that's going to be a foundation step to the future. where it is going to make her life more pleasure what she thinks of it. But also we need to, I see the other side of the coin, is that is the young age where they are putting so much of energy and efforts. I think more than 70 to 80, 60% of the life goes in studies and remaining 30% goes to the sleep. Then we doesn't know with the uncertainties of the life how we go through, not being able to balance the other good part of the life, where other applications or whatever we're talking about, sports or which they could do. So I see sometimes, and may not be the majority of the cases, yes, the starting is always a big challenge. Even when we're talking about an organizations, when we put across, real painful too. But once we get stabilized, the life is something really a small saving on that. So the point when taking a decision, choices to be executed, take the utmost caution, intellect has to be put in place rather than taking emotional decisions. I think this is the one area where all of our energies and efforts should be in place, not to get emotionalized and take the choices. An example of Shakespeare is really eye-opening to everyone.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you're able to relate to the concept, and absolutely right, as you said, any beginning, establishing an organization or an institution, it's a pain. You have to put in a lot of effort. You want to build your personality.
Yeah.
Talking of a young girl or young children, how they are able to put in that kind of effort, but then life becomes so pleasurable. It's all you build a foundation, you know.
Yes.
So along with what you commented, we heard lovely bhajan also behind you, sir.
Yes. The morning rituals of these temples, nearby temples, which they play around some of the musics.
I understand. Perfect. Right, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
So sattvic happiness and the rajasic and tamasic happiness is what this doha brings out. Ashama, you have any Urdu couplet to share?
You were talking of taking the right path. उसके ऊपर एक है, desire is ख्वाहिश. ख्वाहिशों ने ही भटकाए हैं जिंदगी के रास्ते. Our desires mislead us. ख्वाहिशों ने ही भटकाए हैं जिंदगी के रास्ते, वरना रूह तो उतरी थी जमीन पर मंजिल का पता लेकर. The soul knew what the destination is. When the soul descended on this earth, when you take birth, you know what your destination is. But your desires mislead you. ख्वाहिशों ने ही भटकाए हैं जिंदगी के रास्ते, वरना रूह तो उतरी थी जमीन पर मंजिल का पता लेकर.
So beautiful. Isn't it beautiful? और एक बार बोलिए माँ.
ख्वाहिशों ने ही भटकाए हैं जिंदगी के रास्ते, वरना रूह तो उतरी थी जमीन पर मंजिल का पता लेकर. There's another good one I would like to share with you, Guruji, when you were talking of surrender, complete surrender. तो एक बांसुरी कृष्ण भगवान से कहती है, a flute is telling Lord Krishna, कहलाता है जो तू वही तो बस कह सकती हूँ. Whatever tune you breathe into me, only that tune I can sing, because from inside I am hollow. I have no voice of my own. A flute is hollow. कहलाता है जो तू बस वही कह सकती हूँ, मैं अपने मन की कहूँ इतनी तो मेरी औकात नहीं. Only when I am empty from inside, when I'm egoless, can I sing true praises of the Lord.
So nice. So apt for the concept of surrender that we did in the 7th Doha.
That's it. You probably you can explain to us better.
I'm able to relate to it what these profound words are. Certainly, you know. But I'm glad you're also able to relate to with the wealth of exposure you've had, and you're able to relate to the profoundness of what they convey with the teachings.
Yeah.
Really appreciate. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, so we will come back to the 40th Doha, a very beautiful Doha. In fact, Gatima, I can request you to share a document where earlier, some time ago, we had discussed on this. It's actually an excerpt from Khalil Gibran on the concept of giving. Because in the 40th Doha, can we share the Doha just for a minute, please? So there is that document which has been shared. If you can download it at your end. Otherwise, even if you Google it and find out Khalil Gibran on giving from the book The Prophet. It's the book name titled The Prophet. But even if you search on giving by Khalil Gibran, I think you get an idea what it is. You'll get the document. So please read through it and come. I would like to go through this next week. Can I have the translation, please? So the title to this 40th Doha, he says, is charity. He says charity never diminishes wealth. As lessens not water in a flowing river. Experience it for yourself. This truth often spake Kabir this year. So on the concept of true charity, he says charity never diminishes one's wealth. The more you give, the more you will have to give. You will have plenty more. Just like the flowing rivers doesn't empty the river. So it's a beautiful concept, but Khalil Gibran brings out beautifully the concept of giving. Please go through that. We can have a healthy discussion following week. All right. We'll come back. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva evavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.